Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Irene Andriopoulou. I'm Co-Secretary General from the International Steering Committee of UNESCO Middle Alliance and also Head of Research Studies and Educational Department of EKOME. I am glad to welcome you all today to this first webinar, this pre-Christmas edition of round 2 of webinar meal series. And it is in partnership with the EU subchapter Mediterranean group of UNESCO Middle Alliance. The title of our series today is Raising MIL Skills in the Mediterranean, Partnerships and Projects, following the first successful round about MIL policies and main approaches, fields of actions, according to the 5 task force that we have set within the Mediterranean group. This year, our webinars here at EKOME will be more compact, project-based, focusing on good practices that may act as an inspiration and driving force towards a policy impact on media and information literacy. Having said that, today's topic is about Edu Media Test, an interactive tool for evaluation of media literacy skills, touching upon our joint EU-funded project. EduMediaTest is an open educational tool co-founded by Creative Europe Media Literacy for All call in 2019. It is available in 10 languages and addresses secondary education school students. Our guest speakers today are chosen based on the fact that they are national partners of this project. They come from Spain, Croatia, Portugal, and us, Greece. We will discuss the results of this pilot implementation of the project, as well as the challenges of designing and developing an educational tool to meet the needs of school students from the 7 European countries that were represented in the EU consortium. For our guest speakers, please remember to mute your microphone when not talking. And I welcome all the participants. I see messages that we have people from India, from practically all over the globe, and from Philippines, except Europe. So feel free to use chat and Q&A session for all our guests later on, and we will try to get back to all your questions as possible during the last 30-minute sessions of this webinar. Let me move on with introducing our speakers today. We have Ms. Miti Arsenienga, PhD in Communication, researcher and teacher at Pompeu Fabra University in Barcelona, Spain. Her research focus on the work is on the work with young people and vulnerable groups from a gender perspective, especially focusing on media literacy, media representation, social construction of imaginaries, and edu communication as a tool for social change. Miti is also the scientific part of the team of the scientific coordinator of Edu Media Test. Next, we have Robert Tomjanovic, Vice President of the electronic IM Electronic Agency of Media in Croatia. It's the independent regulatory body from the electronic media. And among other things, Robert is responsible for projects related to media literacy, such as the project Media Literacy Days. Before joining the agency, Robert spent his entire professional career in the electronic media and audiovisual industry, working as a journalist, editor, and television producer. And Robert is also representing the national partner of the project, which is IM. Hi, Robert. And
Hello, everyone.
We are also waiting for Tanya, our third guest speaker from Portugal, to join us. But in the meantime, I would suggest to start with the first question and then welcome Tanya when she's available. So let's start with Miti as a scientific coordinator of the project. We're very glad to have you among us. This is the official global presentation of Edu Media Test, to my concern. So we're very happy about that. So Edu Media Test is the outcome of the EU consortium of 7 European countries, now offered as a multilingual open learning tool for evaluating and assessing students' interaction with the media in the swirling digital information era. What was the starting point for your organization to decide to take up this huge challenge towards a school measuring system on media literacy skills?
Thank you, Rene. Hi, Robert, and hi, everybody. I'm very happy to be here and have this opportunity to share with you this amazing project that we have shared the last year. Well, regarding the question, I will share some, if you are okay, I will share some slides to explain you a little bit the beginning of this project, or the beginning of the idea to measure the, do you see? Yes. To measure the competence of students, the media literacy competence. And even when this project has last 1 year, this idea comes from many years ago from the author. The author is a teacher that now is retired, but it's like the soul of this project and the questionnaire, who is U-1st, that he worked at the university. So during the 10 years ago, so he implemented and created a questionnaire, but in that time was a paper questionnaire, paper one. After this process, he and his team realized that one of the handicaps to the questionnaire is that was auto-perceptive questionnaire. So there was a challenge to do interactive and non-auto-perceptive questionnaire. And in this context appeared a great opportunity to apply to the Media Literacy for All grant. And so we had the luck to have all these wonderful partners and start EduMediaTest. So when we start EduMediaTest, we have half of the work a little bit done because we had the questionnaire, but of course with all the contribution of all the partners, and we have to adapt to different contexts, and so it was like a big huge step that we wanted to do, that was to go over Spain, because at the beginning, 10 years ago, it was only in Spain, have the opportunity to compare and the opportunity to adapt in an online way and not perceptive one. And I think that this is a little bit our background.
That's very interesting. That I mean, you had the initial thought in paperwork, so you used the digital technologies and to network and give a global perspective to the tool. And we're very happy to be among the team. So, Robert, what was the starting point for your organization? You're working to a regulatory authority.
Yes. I'm Vice President of, as you said, Independent Regulatory Authority for Electronic Media in the Republic of Croatia. Once again, thank you for inviting me to the conference. I'm happy and honored to be part of this audience. And okay, I will try to describe a bit of context around media literacy in Croatia and why we joined to this project. I will try to okay. Okay, the Agency for Electronic Media has, on its own initiative in the past 7 years, initiated numerous projects on media literacy and has become the most active institutional body in this field in Croatia. However, we are primarily a regulatory body for electronic media, for which the law sets the task of encouraging media literacy. But we took it much more seriously because we believe that prevention is an important segment of regulatory work, and that it is important to strengthen users of media service and to do some parts of regulatory work, such as protection of minors from potentially harmful media content, consumer protection, but in a way also the development of future of audiences through the encouragement of and understanding of quality content, which is also an important regulatory task. The agency has implemented numerous projects like Web Portal for Media Literacy and Project Media Literacy Days. There are several reasons behind the initiative. Firstly, Croatia has no official media literacy policy or strategy, neither a legal framework. Secondly, the majority of students do not have any opportunity to learn about media literacy. In other words, students don't learn how to analyze and evaluate media content because media literacy is only sporadically taught in schools or not at all. The main problem is that media education has not sufficiently been integrated into schools and merely depends on individual teachers' competences and their willingness to deal with it. And finally, there is no institutional code for media literacy in Croatia. In Croatia, media literacy is in the very initial stage of its development. Fortunately, the civil sector has previously been rather active, which helped the situation was not so catastrophic. And also the reason is the world we live in is even more complex. Fake news, disinformation, manipulation, propaganda, hate speech, algorithms, filter bubbles, clickbait journalism, to name just a few. Next, increased time is spent with media that is unregulated and for which there is limited or no protection for children. And finally, the question is, how well are adults and children equipped to critically evaluate media content that they are increasingly exposed to? We realized that only education and developing of key media literacy competences can protect users from numerous challenges they might face in ever-growing media and technology environment. We have started this process not only bearing in mind our social responsibility, but also gaining full understanding the media literacy may be the key answer to numerous challenges we are facing within the new digital age. These are the reasons why we initiated the project in the first place. The first step was conducting a survey whose results confirmed the need for the initiative. If you take a look at this slide, you will see that only 11% of population in Croatia had a chance to learn how to critically evaluate media content. And they would give themselves below average mark, 2.8 from 5 in media literacy. However, the results a year later show significantly dropped to 8%. Not surprisingly, but still alarming, is the fact that every fourth child or young person has experienced some form of violence or hate speech in social media. Also, the research we conducted show some more warning results. In this sense, results show that social networks are the main platforms for information for people under 35 in Croatia, and that only 23% of citizens always check the information before sharing it. Thus, 77% of citizens do not check the information before sharing, or they rarely check it. I think it is a very dangerous cocktail that we are dealing with information through social networks and without enough skills needed to navigate the media space, which contains an abundance of information as well as more and more disinformation. Therefore, we started implementing a systematic approach as previously lacked in Croatia, and we have launched several media literacy projects. And therefore, we decided to join the Edu Media Test because it is clear to us that we need to work on systematic media education in schools. Also, it was clear that Edu Media Test can serve as a good tool to gain knowledge about the level of media literacy of high school students, especially by its dimensions and the way how they acquire during schooling. The second step will be to use all these findings from Edu Media Test for further advocate media literacy in Croatia.
Thank you, Robert. It's 77%. It's quite alarming, but it's a trend, the European and global trend on disinformation. So that's very interesting, especially when it starts from a regulatory authority. I would also like to welcome Tanya with us. Hello, Tanya. Tanya Soares is a sociologist, researcher, and head of media analysis department at the Portuguese Media Regulatory Authority. She's also representing ERC as the national partner of the project. And Tanya is also a member of the working groups of ERGA, the European Regulators Group for Audiovisual Media Services on Media Pluralism and Disinformation and Media Literacy, and also representative at Media and Information Literacy Task Force of EPRA, another important European body, the European Platform of Regulatory Authorities. So welcome, Tanya. We were discussing what was the motivation, what was the driving force for your organization, for your body to take part to Edu Media Test.
Hello, Aurin. First of all, thank you very much for your words, your kind words. And I want to thank you also for the invitation and the opportunity to discuss this project with such distinguished colleagues, and also to congratulate EKOME on this initiative. Considering your question, I may say that in Portugal there are few data regarding students' ML skills, and EduMediaTest seems to be a very good way to collect information on this topic from all over the country and in different types of schools, from larger schools to smaller schools to urban schools to rural, public and private, and using the same tool. So we would be able to compare results and to different approaches if needed. This indeed was the strong reason to take up this challenge. Like teachers have few tools available so that they can use in the classroom to evaluate students' skills. EduMediaTest represented a very good opportunity to respond to this need, even more because it includes training materials in Portuguese that can be used by teachers and by students to improve their tested skills. The feeling we have is that besides this lack of measure of media literacy skills in the audience, it would be possible to create training actions adapt to people's needs. This tool is necessary prior to the training, but also necessary to invest after, to apply after, to assess the true impact and effectivenesses of the training actions we carry out. In addition, ERC is progressively getting involved in media literacy initiatives, adding partnerships for projects, either at national level as European level, in order to exchange educational experience. So this was another unmissable opportunity to collaborate with institutions that are concerned with the same issues that we are, from countries and different countries and realities, which has greatly enhanced our knowledge and experience to better meet the training needs of media audiences. That's all.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Tanya. And may I add at this point that here at EKOME, that we also took part as a national partner of the project. I would like first to thank the National Council for Radio and Television in Greece, because there was a contact from them to take part to the project, and also from Monica Daran, who is also a colleague, and we work closely on media and information later. So there was two forces that came to us and asked us if we're interested in joining the project. And the motivation behind for Greece was that we have we don't have a systematic media literacy education policy in schools, but we have a lot of actions that have to deal with audiovisual literacy, film literacy, digital literacy. They are going on sporadically in typical education. So we wanted to know what's the level of competence, what's the level of knowledge among students. Do they really have adequate knowledge on what's going on with the relationship with the media? Do they need more? And the other challenge was the training material, of course, which is very, very useful. The media kit that later on, I guess we will tell more to the audience. So let's move to the second question that has to do with the main outcomes per country of throughout the pilot testing of the project. It was a very difficult period because we had school lockdown more or less all over Europe last year, so it was an extra challenge for us. So would you like, let's start with Robert, to share with us some outcomes from the pilot implementation of the project in Croatia? Were there any main positive points highlighted or impediments during the implementation? And what would you keep from this experience towards the social emancipation of the future user generation Z?
That's a very difficult question. I think it's hard to single out positive test results. I'm kidding, although the test results do not give cause for smile. But a very important outcome of Edu Media Test is the cooperation of partners in 7 European countries. And that's the why Edu Media Test is very important, as well as the message it sent with our joint project. Once again, it has been shown that only cooperation in the field of media literacy can achieve synergistic and far-reaching results. To achieve these results and goals, we need cooperation at all levels, particularly cross-sectoral, cross-institutional, regional, and international. Cooperation is the key. In any case, the most positive outcome in Croatia is that Edu Media Test has been conducted at all, because it provided the confirmation of what we were guessing, and that is that unfortunately the media literacy level of high school students is low. The results of Croatia high school students are on the average level of all 6 participating countries in the project, thus slightly below that average level, especially in the dimensions of production, distribution, and language. But the global problem is that mentioned average level is low. It can be taken into consideration that the test itself is not very easy, and that there are a few questions that are potentially confusing for youngsters, but nonetheless, I'm concerned about the results of the pilot phase of testing in Croatia. The good news is, if I may call it good news, the good news is that these results are alarming and that they confront us very clearly with the problem. The results of the Edu Media Test are warning because they indicate that our high school students have a low level of critical thinking, that they do not understand well enough how the media works, and that they therefore have not enough skills to protect themselves from manipulation, disinformation. In our modern age, in which, as I said earlier, these same high school students use social networks to gain informed, that is worrying for our society. Therefore, the positive outcome of the Edu Media Test project is the fact that we will now have much more convincing arguments in our efforts to make media literacy, especially critical media literacy, stronger in school curricula, and that the concept of media literacy as a lifelong learning needs to be further developed. It is necessary in school to pay much more attention to teach critical media literacy and media content production than technical skills, which did not prove problematic. I believe that in Croatia, by cooperating with the Ministry of Education, but also with the great support of Ministry of Culture, we will achieve our goal of improving the status of media literacy in schools curricula, and this will be a great merit of the Edu Media Test. Therefore, I should emphasize that it is essential to develop the concept of media literacy as a lifelong learning. It is not enough to have it included in school curricula only, but to start working with preschool children as well. However, the media literacy taught in schools is not sufficient to gain lifelong competencies. The case is that when you stop with media literacy education at the age of 18, you have not gained sufficient competencies for the rest of your life, particularly bearing in mind the continuous development of new technologies and communication platforms. Therefore, the new media literacy models should be developed for all age groups to enable them to further develop their media literacy competences. This is the only way to further develop media literacy skills that could help us recognize and fight against disinformation, to prevent the growth of extreme populism, and to further protect and develop democracy. Additionally, it is important to create the approach to media literacy in a thorough and systematic way, so that it encourages integration of media literacy into school curricula and simultaneously develops models of lifelong learning.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you very much. And it's interesting that you mentioned lifelong learning context, because it is what we are also pursuing here at EKOME in Greece. We approach it as not only as a typical school skill competence for students, but something that has to follow throughout all stages of life, from preschool to senior citizens. And if we want to talk about the sustainable democracies.
Yes.
And I mean, even if the results were not very high in Croatia, the good news is that we have this synergy between us, and the tool is available in 10 languages and maybe in more languages in the future.
Yeah, this is very important.
This is a very strong added European value and global value at the same time. And this gives us food for thought, you know, for us and for the policymakers, because when you're talking about research, you need to have evidence. So that was a very good pilot testing. And let me move on with Tanya, because I know you had a very large amount of participants, of educators from Portugal. You had the top record from all the
we are very proud
partners.
Of it.
So,
yeah. And Croatia is on the second place.
Well, Irene, if you allow me, at this point, I will share my screen with you to show precisely our numbers and the main findings of the Portuguese report. So let me see if I can do it. Can you see it?
Yes, it's working. Perfect.
Okay. Let me put it here. One of the greatest achievements of the Portuguese team was precisely the ability to involve schools, students, and teachers from across all the national territory, including the islands, as you can see on this map. And these accomplishments were only possible thanks to my colleagues, the effort of my colleagues, Bruna Afonso and Aloia Pereira, who managed to collaborate with these 27 schools in the middle of the pandemic. We can't forget that in terms of difficulties, we felt that teachers and students were overwhelmed in the time of the year. We have to choose to run the pilot test. The COVID-19 restrictions played a very relevant role in this situation, but apart from these, we also felt teachers have a little time to spend with activities that were not previously programmed, and they made a real effort to perform the tests with their students. And curiously, that was also the most positive outcome, because we noticed that though schools faced these challenges from sanitary restrictions, the ones that accept to participate were very glad of having the opportunity to try the tool and help the project to be successful. It took a a serious effort from the Portuguese team to, and I'm proudly to announce these numbers, to reach 27 schools, 148 classes, to 2,756 students. And it took also, as I said, a very strong engagement of the teachers in overbooked plans and always changing plans. Another obstacle to overcome was the fact that schools don't have enough IT equipment. There are very few rooms with computers, and the internet connection was often weak. That led some students to use their smartphones and mobile internet connection. This wasn't the ideal scenario, but it allowed more students to participate in Edu Media Test. Regarding the results achieved by the Portuguese students, it should be noted that they were very similar to those observed in the other countries that tested this tool. On average, the score achieved by students was 14.35 points out of a possible 60.5, and with the maximum value achieved was 26.15. The results on the global score indicate that the vast majority of the questions or exercises presented some type of difficulty. Students struggled, although there are some differences that can be greater in some of the dimensions, as we are going to see after here. Now looking at the national results for the different dimensions of assessment, we verified that technology and aesthetics dimensions were those with the students obtained the best performance. And as for the dimensions, they obtained the lowest classification, and also they have greater difficulty, appear to be those related with language production and dissemination and reception dimensions. There are some main ideas related to the Portuguese contest that I wish to underline. One of them is girls have on average slightly better results than boys. Test performance improves with age. The educational level of the mother of the guardian seems to be positively influence students' performance, and tests answered on computer show better results than on tablets or smartphones, the thing we verified with the technical problems Edu Media Test to still have on this equipment. Just to finish, other of the most positive outcomes we noticed during the implementation of the pilot test was the true interest teachers have shown, as I said, in the tool itself, but not only in the questionnaire, but special in the training materials. We must keep in mind that teachers are not experts in this field, and for that reason, they can have some difficulties to translate materials they find whatever, to different sources, into content to teach. Many teachers were truly enthusiastic about having a tool such as the Edu Media Test in Portuguese, because they understand the importance of media literacy to the youngest, but they can't find good materials available on our language. The majority of the students, concerning the results, the majority of the students have access to technologies at home, and on the contrary, and curiously, Nearby 60% says they don't have access to newspapers and magazines at home, and they don't have books in their homes. It's a quite significant percentage, 59.4%. In Portuguese schools, there are still a shortage of IT equipment, as I referred. Rooms are not prepared to carry out actions involving these requirements, and the internet connections are still insufficient. That's all for now, and I think that I can provide more information later if you find it necessary.
Thank you, Tanya, very much. It's to my knowledge, the school system in Portugal is very much similar to the Greek educational system. So we can familiarize ourselves with some of the difficulties and challenges that you faced too. So I left Mitzi for the end because Mitzi, I would like you to give us an overview of the results, you know, with regards to the dimensions and the outcomes of the projects. So here's your chance.
I'm having some difficulties too.
I think we lost Mitzi. I don't see her online. Let's wait a few minutes, and in the meantime, I would like to present the dimensions that were more high in the highest level in Greece, because there was a slight differentiation with the other partners. In Greece, we had over 800 responses from Greek educational institutions, from Greek educations of secondary level. We had around 823 responses, and it was very interesting because in terms of the dimensions that were used, as Mitzi said, the project was based on 6 dimensions. The ideology dimension came first in Greece, and then second came dimension that had to do with technology, third aesthetics, and then the other 3 dimensions that were reception, content production, and language dimension were in the lower levels. So this was kind of in contradiction with the EU results, because in the European results, technology came first, aesthetics came second, and ideology was third, and then we had again reception and language dimension and content production dimension. These were also very low. Tanya, you mentioned that the language dimension was quite difficult for the Portuguese students, so they were not very familiar with issues that had to do with contextual analysis and linguistics in terms of media.
Yes, we don't. I don't have an explanation. We have explanation for that that finding, but it seems that in fact language is one of the dimensions. They have the poorest results, but we don't have really an explanation for that. No, sorry.
That's okay. So I would also like to mention that we have all the Greek team of Edu Media Test with us today. So later on, our colleague Dimitris Papaharalabous will be able to present some more concrete data and some challenges that we faced during the Greek implementation of the project. Let's move to the third question and until Mitzi join us again. So let's talk about other projects. Do you have any other projects or initiatives in your organization that deal with MIL skills and could serve as a good example potential for exchange of knowledge within the MIL community towards an active citizenship? Mitzi is with us. Robert, would you like to mention a few of your projects? Okay. Until Mitzi sorts out.
Hello, Irana.
Mitzi is here.
Sorry.
You had a technical issue, but we're very glad to have you with us again, because we wanted you to give us, the overview of the results of the pilot implementation of Edu Media Test. I mentioned a few things about the dimensions, but I think you as the scientific coordinator are most appropriate to report on this.
Thank you. Now I'm from the mobile phone, so I cannot show the slides, but I will explain you a little bit. First, to talk about before the final pilot that we implement, we did the final questionnaire that we implement. We did a pilot test that allow us to identify some problems or some things that we should amend before applying the final questionnaire. So at the end of all the process, we in the whole Europe, with the whole participants, we apply almost 10,000 questionnaires, and in Spain we apply 1,192 questionnaires that, as you said before, in pandemic, or it was like crazy things to get. One of the difficulties, of course, that we had, it was to enter the schools, even when teachers had good availability. We have frequently lockdowns, so we have to reprogram the application many times. Even with this, we got one of the main results, and for us as researchers, the most important result is that the test reavailability. Because the main objective of this project was to create a tool that works in order to measure media competence. For this, with the normal distribution and standard deviation of the data, it means that we have, I don't have the graphic now, but it's like a pyramid, that we have the results are not with the lower score and not with the higher scores, are like distributed in the middle. From the statistic point of view, it means that the tool works, and it's the great big result. Another result was that it's interesting, and it's in general, not only in Spain, is a correlation with mother's educational level. The correlation with mother's educational level could start another research, actually, because it's very interesting to see how, as highest is the level of education of the mother, highest are the scores, and the opposite, lowest training of the mother, lowest scored. Regarding to the dimensions, because something that I didn't have the opportunity to say before is that we divide this questionnaire in 6 dimensions. That these 6 dimensions come from this questionnaire that I told you at the beginning 10 years ago with Joan Ferres. And these 6 dimensions were technology, production, reception, ideology, and aesthetics, and other one. And so regarding the dimensions, the highest level of in the results were in the dimension of technology. This it was something that we weighted this because it was in the line, this contradiction of a school of reducing media literacy to digital skills, essentially to instrumental dimension. Yeah. So when in many schools, at least in Catalonia and Spain, when we talk about media literacy, schools are really talking about digital literacy, and the results are in this line. Another thing that we have, it was the The most challenging dimension was the production, diffusion, and reception and languages. Those are the three that with the words results. So it breaks with the myth of native generation or digital generation, because they are very familiar with how media, how to use, how to record videos, how to publish on Instagram, how to make TikToks, but they are not familiar on how media organizations operate, how the content platforms operate, how media messages are produced according to certain rules. So it's like a paradox that they are always having a camera on their hands, but there are many things that they don't control really. The lowest score occurred for production and diffusion dimension. So in the same line, even that they are familiar with media content, Instagram photos in their daily life, they are not training in terms of production techniques, identity, private data, and factors that affect media messages. And this is something that we should really pay attention, because they think they have the auto-perception that they're very, very trained in media, but in the opposite, we have these results. And I think that, well, with all these results,
there was a problem. There is a problem with Mitzi's connection. Let's wait. In the meantime, I just posted on chat the website of Edu Media Test for everyone to be able to have a closer look at the tool per se, but also to see the media kit, because the media kit is all about the 6 dimensions and is a very useful training material for all educators. So apart from the test, we have also the media kit that is a very good, useful resource for all the teachers. And I guess Mitch is having some technical problems. I would like to move on then, and until we sort out this problem. So maybe Robert, can you just give us an idea of what else you're doing with media literacy, because you said that you are being very active as a regulatory authority on media literacy projects, and that could be an inspiration for the rest of the authorities and us.
Yeah, thank you. I forgot earlier, so let me also brag about some results. In Croatia, we tested a total of 2,535 students in 155 classes from 15 schools all over Croatia. And I'm very, very proud of these results. Okay, Croatia is second. Okay, Tanya, congratulations for your best results, but this is a very representative sample for us. Very, very, very useful results. Okay, our projects. Let me see, just share the screen. One of our crucial projects and excellent example of good practice are the Media Literacy Days, which represent our main platform for gathering stakeholders. This is a poster for this year Media Literacy Days with slogan, "It is important how you feel on both sides of the screen." The Media Literacy Days were launched in order to establish a platform that would facilitate gathering and cooperation among various social stakeholders, promote and organize sustainable media literacy projects, produce educational materials, and raise public awareness of the importance of media education. Why might the example of the Media Literacy Days project be of interest to all colleagues involved in media education and media literacy? I believe so because the project has been set on several important stages: multi-stakeholder aspect, focus on users, localization, reach, and evaluation. Of particular note is the multi-stakeholder aspect, which is truly multi. One of the project's success is the cooperation of wide circle of stakeholders, taking the view that only by gathering as many stakeholders as possible, we can achieve more powerful, long-lasting, and far-reaching results. Numerous partners are involved in the project from the very beginning. To go back to what I said at the start, UNICEF is our main partner. Then from the collaboration on the media literacy portal, which was also launched by agency and UNICEF, official collaboration with 11 faculties arose, such as the Academy of Dramatic Arts, Faculty of Journalism, and Faculty of Communication Studies. Furthermore, within this project, joint events with libraries throughout Croatia were coordinated and organized. And there is also wide circle of partners, as you can see, from schools to media outlets. Taking everything into consideration, promotion of media literacy will no longer be just a campaign, but the goal of many organizations within an annual initiative that engages adults and children in raising awareness and skills in media literacy. One additional very important fact is the cooperation with all leading national media, meaning all national TV stations, public services, as well as commercial TV stations, all national daily newspapers, and major radio stations. The media in turn promote our projects, but more importantly, in these media, we organize one-day practical workshops for students, led by media professionals. Children have the chance to visit media outlets and to learn from media professionals how media works and how media content is being prepared, and they have the chance to produce their own content with professional guidance. As we can see from the Edu Media Test results, this is an important segment which still needs to be strengthened. But this element is not very easy to organize in the time of pandemic, so we have to adjust a bit. Furthermore, we have a great cooperation with the embassies of Finland, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, France, and Great Britain. In doing so, we adapt educational materials from these countries or organize lectures and workshops by their well-known media literacy experts. A very important element of the Media Literacy Days project is the focus on users. In fact, most of it is dedicated to them and their media education. Perhaps the main element in this is the production of educational materials intended for teachers and those who use them for teach media literacy in schools and kindergartens. Our educational materials have had more than 500,000 downloads in the last 3 years, which clearly implies that there has been a great need among teachers. 500,000 downloads is a very, very strong number for Croatia. And this is our educational materials. Some examples, and on the right side is adaptation from booklet from our dear colleagues from Finland. The Media Literacy Days were initiated in 2018 by agency and UNICEF, and soon after, only 2 years, they become the most important media literacy event in Croatia. For example, this year, a total of 266 lectures, workshops, screenings, debates, and other activities were held in more than 115 cities throughout Croatia, with more than 16,000 participants. And this is an example of great reach. Our Media Literacy Days project has defined 3 main segments: events like workshop, lectures, film projections. Secondly, education materials in collaboration with experts. Booklets and teaching materials were developed to follow media literacy in schools and kindergartens. And finally, the program Children Meet Media, which I explained earlier. Furthermore, we keep encouraging citizens to develop critical thinking in approaching media content. However, we did have one project that was entirely dedicated to encourage active participation in political life. The project was called Ideological Challenge, and it included educational materials for high school senior students, which might be useful for other older generations as well. The Ideological Challenge project has several elements: an educational brochure for teaching in school, but also an interactive quiz that can be played online. The purpose of the project was to draw attention to a political discourse, to understanding and differentiation key political ideologies, pluralism, populism, monism, in a way that users may be able to comprehend political and democratic process and news, including the ability to reach through media messages generally in everyday life, and particularly during hustings. These educational materials assist in analyzing and understanding political and media message, encourage critical approach in reading and decoding political speeches. I believe one of the key competencies, particularly in times of information overload, information manipulation, and disinformation.
Wow, Robert, I would say you impressed us all. You impressed us all. You have a truly European perspective and approach to the issue because you collaborate closely with other partners from other countries. You have the multidisciplinary umbrella approach with all the stakeholders in your country. You have the budget for it, which is so important. And,
yes, and the cooperation with UNICEF is very important, also, yes, also in terms of budget.
That's important to know. And may I ask about the days, the media literacy days? Do they take place during the global UNESCO Media and Information Literacy Week?
No, it's every spring.
Every spring.
Every spring, it depends on Easter. At the mid of April, at the end of April, 7 days in spring.
Okay, because it would be interesting for the next UNESCO Global Media and Information Literacy Week in October, you know, to present all the action that you're doing throughout the year. Thank you so much. And we have some questions, but I will leave this for the end. Mitzi, is your connection stable now?
I hope so. I'm very sorry. Now I'm connecting from the mobile phone, but the mobile phone turned off and it was like Murphy's Law. But I think that now I'm here. Sorry.
It's okay, it's fine. Before we go back to talking about Edu Media Test, I would like to ask you if you have any other projects, research projects going on in your university that deal with issues of media literacy.
Yes, actually, as we are members of the communication department, and media literacy is a transversal issue that we include always in subjects and in projects. Actually, and now we are participating in 2 European projects, and we are in charge of this part of those projects that are connected with non-formal education. And among this non-formal education, especially for inclusion, we are responsible of all this part of designing the content for media literacy part. Now we're working especially with audiovisual participatory methodology. We are using audiovisual as a way, we are trying to adapt to the means and to the language young people and children are used. Exchange the roles too, don't go with the role of teachers only. They can also teach us in many ways and exchange this kind of knowledge. They are more training since the technology point of view. Probably we can help them to be more critical or to have a more wide vision of the how to produce, how to pre-produce, how to produce, how to post-produce elements. So we are using, especially now in the projects that we have now, the visual participatory methodology to explain to students how we can use the narrative language to visualize social problems, to also to activists too, to be responsible and conscious and critical digital citizenships.
Thank you, Mitzi. So you're following closely with the social dimension of media literacy, which is equally important. So Tanya, you want to share with us some of your main actions and projects?
Yes, but first of all, I want to say to Robert that we have the highest number, but he has the best presentations. I'm sharing mine now, and you will see that it's not the same. But let's go. I don't know. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Sorry. Irene, I'm not aware of any project like Edu Media Test to assess ML skills. Can you hear me? I think there is.
It's okay.
Okay. As I said, I'm not aware of any ML project like this one to assess ML skills, but sure, it will exist. But in Portugal, as I said before, we have several national and European partnerships in the field of media literacy. From this collaboration, I would like to first highlight our contribution on the drafters team of the Action Group for Media Literacy of ERGA, represented by my colleague Bruno Afonso and myself. And this team produced this year the ERGA Media Literacy Report with recommendations for key principles, some of them Robert already mentioned. Best practice and media literacy toolbox for video sharing platforms concerning the AVMES directive, the Article 28B. Our findings were briefly summarized as follows. Concerning the role of the national regulators in media literacy, is not consistently inscribed in national legal frameworks or provided in a national strategy or public policy in all member states. That's a concern of this report. The revised AVMSD has provided some additional structure with regard to the role of the NRAs, however, a greater cooperation within member states would be helpful to provide consistency and maximize the quality of these interventions. The survey we completed by all members of this action group provided rich and valuable data in the shape of best practice of ML, and we listed in the appendix of the final report several ML initiatives for those who want to set up their own, and they can be inspired by them. Another finding of the survey indicate that the proposal to jointly develop a concept of ML initiatives would be welcome. ERGA is of the view that enhanced cooperation and partnership with existing European networks such as EPRAS EMIL would add value, and evaluating EMIL initiatives remains one of the challenges due to its complexity. Further common work is certainly required in this area, and I think the value of Edu Media Tests is here due to the complexity of doing this evaluation. Concerning the relation between VSPs and media literacy, this survey showed that we only are aware of a limited number of initiatives led, implemented, or supported by the VSPs, and there is a lack of clear and consistent channels of communications with the VSPs. Finally, but not least, it's important, and I invite everyone to look at our media literacy toolbox, which includes some concrete examples that aim to help the VSPs to implement ML key principles, the 6 key principles I can talk about a bit later, that are presented in this report. There is a practical application of the key principles is highly likely to improve citizens' experiences and provide an array of a better understanding of this kind of initiative. Now, regarding national partnerships, I would like to highlight ERC's relevant role within the EKOME, that is an informal group on media literacy and one of the pillars of our work in this area. Beside us, beside the Portuguese regulator, these groups includes a Minho University Research Center, the National Cybersecurity Center, the UNESCO National Commission, the National Council for Education, the General Directorate of Education, for also the Foundation for the Science and Technology, the National Reading Plan, the General Secretariat of the Council of Ministers, Presidents, the Portuguese Public and Radio Television, and the School Library Network. It seems a lot, and it is a lot. There are many participants. This partners group decided to reorganize, and I would like to stress this point, reorganize its internal work dynamics and adapt to some of its initiatives, annual initiatives. The most paradigmatic example was the reorganization of the 7 days with media, that in our case are in May because of our Freedom of Expression Day. We call these editions Without Leaving Home, because we have the emphasis on disinformation, fake news, and online security, but it was streamlined in the early days of the pandemic. Among the news of these editions, we would like to stress the edition Voices of the Initiative, that stands out as the ambassadors of the initiative that share their testimonies on and represent various segments of society, from students to researchers to regulators, educators, public and political figures. I would like to stress also that a few years ago, we also started to involve social media influencers and artists, like singers, to alert younger audience to the importance of informing themselves and having a critical thinking about their media consumptions. This was a very important step to reach the youngest audiences. Within this group, we also hold the annual National Congress of Media Literacy. And in this Congress, we involve the entire academic and school community. And anyone, any person or institution can share their studies or their initiatives related to media literacy. It's a very important, it is a very important initiative of our own. And also ERC is the Portuguese regulator, and the Portuguese Association EPIS we define schedule for media literacy actions to be carried out in schools since 2016. In this year, the collaboration was about the theme Disinformation and Fake News Online in Times of COVID. And within the scope of this partnership, but also with other schools, ERC carried out several ML actions on the topics you can read, then they are listed in this slide. And I think that's all for highlighting some of our projects.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you very much. So we have Media Literacy Days in April, in May. We have MIL Week in October. In Greece, we have Greek National Media Literacy Week in November. Okay, we're doing good in terms of awareness raising and promoting our actions. It's good also that you mentioned AVMSD, Tanya, and I think that we should devote another webinar on the regulatory approach for promoting media literacy through the implementation of the Audiovisual Media Service Directive, and also invite the Greek Radio and Television Council with us. I would like to move on and just to have a closing question for all of you. Just 2 minutes from everyone, because we have many interesting questions from the chat that I would like to get back to them as soon as possible. So David Buckingham, in his Media Education Manifesto in 2019, says that if we're going to teach about this rapidly changing world, we need to set a coherent set of principles rather than just an arbitrary list of content. So how is media literacy falls into this new paradigm, in your opinion? Tanya, would you like to give us a 2 minutes opinion?
Yes, I think this statement is very valuable insight for media literacy. That is the same to say that this is a changing so fast in the communication field that having a closed list of contents addressed to specific technologies, service types of content, they are constantly changing and doesn't lead to lasting approaches or solutions. So in order to do this, we have to have a coherent set of principles, and this can be applied to every similar situations and guide people's choices and decisions regarding their relationship to media. I also think that the 6 principles that the Ergo group I previous mentioned and that Robert talked about are very important to guide these actions, these media literacy actions. For those being transparency as a critical principle to enable trust, the multi-stakeholder aspect, the collaboration and partnership we already spoke about, the focus on user citizen as the principle of the user being at the center of all measures to promote media literacy. The reach, the audience one are different, and there are projects that are that reach large audiences, but there are others that are in-depth initiatives or the combination of both. The evaluation, and where the Edu Media Test is referred, the evaluation is a very challenging operation, as we talked about. The localization concerning the recognition of the uniqueness of some countries or region or language or even community. And I think these are the 6 key principles that we think in our ERGA group that should guides all the media literacy, and that we asked VSPs to fulfill.
Thank you, Tanya, especially what you said about reaching the audience in their own environment. You talk about reaching children in social media platforms. So we have to go and find children in their own environment to indulge in their own experience. And this is what we the adults have to do in order to have a clearer picture. Mitzi?
Yes, I completely agree with Tanya. As I said before, that's what we are trying to do, is to change the means, and the means are in constant change. What we are trying to do is to adapt to the children and to the young people means. If they are using TikTok, we try to go and use TikTok too, and try to go further, not only into what they do in the daily life, but why do they do this, analyze a little bit what others do, interpret from the ideological point of view, from the also from the production, copyright, privacy point of view, and other issues that sometimes we don't see. But in regarding David Buckingham statement, it's completely true, because now we're, for example, in our case, now we are working with audiovisual, yeah. That's the mean in the language. Now in the platform could be TikTok, could be Instagram, could be whatever. But I'm sure that in 1 year we are going to be working in other thing, in other platform, and probably in something that we don't know that it's going to appear. Now we don't know what it's it. But the idea is that the umbrella of this capacity to be critical digital citizens, we work for this to understand that the rights that we have outside the screen, we also have the same rights and the same responsibilities, and to learn to be citizens in this new environment. Yeah? So it's more over the meaning, more over the languages, to translate this to one side to the other.
Thank you, Mitzi. So Robert, do you see a coherent set of principles, and do you see media and information literacy as part of this digital culture we're all in?
Of course, and I'm sorry. I also remember some other message from the great book of David Buckingham, such as that we must not look at the media binary in terms of the difference between risk and benefits, while neglecting the real media complexity and diversity of people's daily practice. Also the message that we cannot solve the problem of disinformation with a simple checklist that will show us the difference between truth and lies, but that we need a much more sophisticated, in-depth knowledge of how the media represent the world and how they are produced and used. As Buckingham said, we need a coherent educational strategy, not another quick fix solution. And I would also like to remind you of a last year conclusion of the Council of the European Union on Media Literacy, which was held during the Croatian presidency. The document, Conclusion on Media Literacy in Ever-Changing World, placed media literacy at the heart of media policy, considering it crucial for protection audience, ensuring pluralism in algorithm environment, as well as for combating social threats posed by disinformation. This conclusion represents a significant step in how media literacy is viewed at the policy level across the European Union, and an important development that has implications for media literacy policy, funding, and visibility, is they contain a series of proposed measures and activities which may be taken up in a certain area by member states of the European Union and the European Commission. And also the whole situation in media literacy we can also put in the context of the pandemic. We have been fighting for almost 2 years. I may say that the coronavirus has spread much faster than media literacy, and without any substantial resources and investments. I'm kidding. What I'm trying to emphasize is that in contrast to the virus, which has unfortunately spread amazingly quickly, as for the media literacy, unfortunately, we need to invest tremendous efforts, a strategic approach, systematic investment, funding, and encouraging engagement and cooperation of numerous social stakeholders. Media literacy calls for intensive cooperation and long-term commitment, including investment. I'm afraid there are no quick and easy solutions. There are no immediate results. They cannot be seen in a period of a few years, let alone a few months. I believe we are realistically talking about 10 years. This is the reason why media literacy is not attractive for politics as well, as they are not an ad hoc solution and not many dares to tackle the issue.
Thank you, Robert. It is exactly as you said. It takes many years. I mean, I remember someone once told me that in Canada it took 30 years in order to have a fully implemented media literacy education in schools. I would like to move on quickly to the Q&A session, and to start first, there is a question for Mitzi and all of us. If the project is available, if someone else globally can participate to the project, and to my understanding, it's available in 10 languages. So if they speak one of these 10 languages, they are able to take part to it. Is that correct, Mitzi?
Yes, of course. Now it's the project is finished, but not finished. We have finished the first part, but the idea now is it's open and it's in 10 languages, so any country can participate, can use it, and this is the idea. Now we are just in this part to promote the project and to challenge schools and countries to use the questionnaires. So of course it is open for everybody. And if you have any question or a specific question about the questionnaire, you can contact us in any moment.
So they can, for everyone out there, you can get in touch with us through the official website, EduMediaTest.eu, and you can ask for your login data. We will give you access, and then you can test the tool to your own school community. And speaking of which, we have also Dimitris Papaharalabous from the Greek team, and I don't know if he's available to just give us two main points, you know, from what happened in Greece during the Greek lockdown. And we also have some from the educators, the Greek educators who actually took the time and test the project in their classroom, and we're very thankful to all the educators in Greece and in Europe, because you all had a very difficult timing to do it. So hi Dimitris, I see you are well connected. You're muted.
No? Okay. Hello to everyone. I'm very glad happy to be among you now and be among you all the previous year. And I'm very happy that the time has come to present the Edu Media Test and to make it accessible to all the educational community. I think that the main challenge, as it is already mentioned, was to cooperate with each other. And from the Greek perspective, the first and rather permanent challenge was to cooperate with each other here in EKOME, all of us who worked on Edu Media Test, Irene and me, Anfi Guskiu, who has now moved to another organization, with the help of Despina Labada and Matula Papadimitriou, and the supervision of Stelios Kimionis, who is the head of our department. The second challenge was to cooperate with all of our European partners under the Spanish coordination, who had the initiative of on the project and the main responsibility for the creation of the tool. Monica, Mitzi, Davinia, Carles had a very difficult task too, It was very fruitful working with you, all of you, and we thank you all very much. The greatest difficulty was rather to agree on a common European digital tool that would be at the same time be in accordance with the specific characteristics of each country. So we, like all the others, did not have only to translate the questionnaire or the media toolkit, but also to adapt it to the Greek reality, to the Greek conditions, which had to do with our language, our mentality, our culture, the level of digital and media literacy, the Greek educational system, and the rules governing it. For example, in order to implement the pre-pilot test, we had to ask permission from the Educational Policy Institute with a detailed report, or we could not use the advertisements with the logo of the product because this is not allowed in Greek schools, even for educational reasons. So we had to cover the logos or change the TV commercial used in the Edu Media Test. And last, we have to cooperate with all the teachers and schools from urban and rural areas from all over Greece that accepted to collaborate during this very difficult pandemic situation where all the schools were closed and only distance education was available for teachers and students. And we have to thank them very much for their voluntary participation. So Irene, could you give me the opportunity to share my screen to show some specific results from the Greek implementation? Or Despina?
Maybe you can try now.
Okay.
But please be brief, Dimitris. We want to have time for the questions also.
Okay. So we see, you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the results from the total results for each dimension that Irene mentioned. You see that the main differentiation from the European results is that the dimension with the best performance was the ideology, and then technology, aesthetics, reception, production, diffusion, and language. If we could try to explain this differentiation, maybe as a teacher, I think maybe it is due to the fact that media and advertisement is a very favorite topic of discussion and topic in text analysis and text writing classes in Greek schools. So Greek students are familiar discussing media and advertisement issues. That's why if we see that the question with the best performance almost 75%, it was the question concerning asking for the students if they can comprehend the message of a TV commercial. And most of them managed to recognize the meaning that was to challenge stereotypes about men's behavior in TV commercial the Greek team used. But meanwhile, the students comprehend the meaning. If we go to the production diffusion dimension, when a question asks them to identify an advertisement in the web page, we see that the score is very low. So the same time students comprehend the meaning, they cannot identify the advertisement. So they cannot comprehend their practical function, and that's a big issue. And it's very obvious that all these columns at the bottom of the web pages, it's very easy to think they are news, but it is advertisements. It's another type of fake news. Another question with a very low
score,
it goes again from the production diffusion category. we see that students cannot choose the right Creative Commons license. So it's a big issue. It's a big issue with plagiarism. It's a big issue with the creative rights. We notice it in schools. We notice it in universities and the higher academic level. It's very easy to copy and paste or to download, and this makes you feel that what you download or copy and paste belongs to you. So I would think all the students of all of us should learn how to protect our work or to respect the work of others. And last one, you see that question which was total failure. It was the question that asking teachers and students to identify the regulatory authority of their country who can address if see something inappropriate in the media. Almost no one in Greece knows about the National Council of Broadcasting. And that's a big issue. And it reveals that the National Broadcasting Council does not have a connection with society. So I don't...
we are...
Okay, thank you
we
very
have
much.
To move on.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dimitris, for these very interesting and alarming results in terms of what's going on in Greece. We have also with us Ms. Athina Korouli, who is one of the educators who kindly took part to the test voluntarily and engaged a quite large amount of her students in testing the tool. So would you like, Ms. Korouli, share with us your experience? What was the students' reaction? Did they enjoy testing the tool? Did they find it difficult?
Hello, thank you for the invitation. My name, as you have just heard, is Athina Korouli. I'm a teacher at the first Model Lyceum of Athens, Genadio, and I'm very glad to be with you all here today. Before starting my short intervention, let me express my warmest thanks to Ms. Irene Andriopoulou and to EKOME for the invitation. My school participated in the piloting application of the Edu Media Test at two stages. First, during electronic distant education, and second, during live lessons of the previous school year of 2020-2021. I'm in short going to summarize some conclusions on behalf of our school teaching staff that could probably prove to be useful. Firstly, some questions were not directly blended with the modules taught or the students' interest, thus causing some creative ambiguity regarding the answers. We consider it would be effective if they were supported by cross-curricular lesson planning through research project work, and if they were adjusted to the student reality. Secondly, it would be of great interest if project completion was done in groups, mostly as a potential for cognitive conflict to take place. Last but not least, regarding the question on time spent on the screen, we have put forward the suggestion of not taking into consideration the mandatory distant education time, which was 6 hours per day, due to the peculiar health circumstances of the previous school year and the subsequent closing down of all school units in Greece. In general, students have very much enjoyed taking part. It was a great pleasure to participate in the project, and we thank EKOME once more for giving us this opportunity. I think especially the training material will be very useful to the Greek educators. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mrs. Carulli, for your time and for your impression from using the tool in the classroom. As you mentioned, the Media Kit is a very important open educational resource for everyone. So all the educators, they can have a look at all the questions, all the correct answers, and then spark a discussion with their students in the classroom. Time is running out, so I would like to go to a question in the Q&A section. Someone is asking if there is anything similar, possibly a simplified version for primary education school students, because this was addressed to secondary education students. Mitzi, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, actually, as a tool to measure the competence, no. It's true that the CAC, that it's Consejo Visual de Catalunya, the regulator agency here in Catalonia, we have a lot of materials, training materials, also for primary students. But there is not, at least as far as we know, a tool to measure competence in primary schools. I take advantage to answer one of the questions was in the chat. If media literacy in our country is integrated in curriculum, and unfortunately the answer is no. Media literacy is not integrated in curriculums. It's very difficult to get spaces to promote media literacy activities in the school. So it depends a lot of the volunteer of the principals, of the teachers, if they are motivated, if they are have this innovative or this vision. But as a system, as an educational system, there is no law or there is no statement that includes media literacy as one of the key in education in general, unfortunately.
It's the same in Greece. It does not exist as an autonomous object of study in typical education, but you can find it cross-curricularly, cross-thematically, in projects and other workshops. Robert, someone was asking if it is integrated in school curriculum in Croatia.
Media literacy?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but not enough. The media education has not sufficiently been integrated in school curricula, especially not critical media literacy, and mainly depends on individual teachers' competencies and their willingness to do it. That's the main problem.
Okay, Tanya, I think you mentioned that there is a presence in the curriculum, but not a systematic one.
Yes, it's the same as Robert said. We had one subject that includes one or two topics about media literacy, but it's not a systematic work. And the same problems, because I already mentioned that teachers don't have specialized skills to do this kind of work with students. So they are the first to be very interested and grateful when we want to go there and talk to them in a more concrete subject. And the critical thinking is the issue, the main issue, I think.
Thank you, Tanya. So someone is asking, so teacher training is a key issue then? It is a big part of this problem to start from the teachers, the educators themselves. So Edu Media Test is actually what inspired us to go and move on. I mean, we started this tool. It is an open educational tool. As I wrote in the chat, everyone can access it and try it and test it. And we can get inspired, not only these 7 countries, but all the other European countries and globally. We can get inspired and try to have more concrete assessment tool or evaluation media literacy tools like Edu Media Test. It's not perfect, but it's a point to start with. And the focus of this webinar was to start a conversation about media literacy and what is going on in the European level, in these countries. So it was a challenge for us to trigger a more systematic public discourse on all issues concerning media literacy. Someone mentioned about the curriculum. I would just like briefly to mention the new curriculum UNESCO about media and information literate citizens. Think critically, click wisely. It is a curriculum addressed to school on issues that have to do with media and digital literacy, and it's available to download. I think our time is up now. I would like to welcome everyone for your presence here, for your time, for your very well organized presentations and your comments. I would like especially to thank all the participants, the attendees of this webinar. Just some statistics. This was a truly global gathering because we had people from Cameroon, from England, London, from Spain, Philippines, Kosovo, Bulgaria, South Africa, Brazil, so many countries all over the world. So that was a big honor for us to have you with us today. Thank you very, very much, everyone. This will be recorded and sent to all of you to share it with your networks. Thank you, Mitzi. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Dimitris and the Greek team. Miss Athena Koroulian, of course, Despina Labada, the technical assistant behind all this. Thank you, everyone.